So it's day 47 of the daily dollar cost average Bitcoin project. And again, I'll just get right into it. We'll do our conversion from DAI, the stable coin, $333 over to Bitcoin. Okay, and let's just take a quick look at the market. So Bitcoin's up marginally, just under 1%. Cardano's up 1.35%. Ethereum's down 0.36%. Algorand's up just over 2%. Cosmos down 0.5%. Chainlink down almost 1%. And the graph down up almost 1%. So nothing really crazy going on right now. It's March 24th, 2021. And this is another guy I actually think is a pretty good Bitcoin analyst. Is this Altcoin Daily? He's pretty good. Like I find this guy reasonable, and he just seems to be honest, and he has his he has his composure. He's not freaking out, and he's not telling you things to hype things up. But I think he's pretty good. But anyways, we'll just listen to what he has to say, because he's just going to be talking about Cardano and Ethereum and so on and so forth. We'll just give it a quick listen and hear what Altcoin Daily has to say.
Right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for a video on cryptocurrency every day. My name's Austin. I have a major update / announcement involving Cardano, a major announcement involving Ethereum, as well as breaking news involving top altcoins you should know. But first, I want to talk about me and how my strategy as a cryptocurrency investor has changed in this maturing bull market. I'm not a registered financial advisor. I share this not so you copy me, just so you can understand where I'm coming from based on the data that I'm looking at, and then you can make the best decision for you. So like always, let's jump in. This is Bitcoin on the weekly scale. Everything to the right of this line is this year, 2021. And Bitcoin dipped again last night, and although we're recovering now, in the short term, we were as low as a $52,000 Bitcoin for a second. And that scared some people. And then I showed you this. For those of you who follow us on Twitter last night, dips are very normal in bull markets. Please don't panic for all you newbies out there. And I've shown this before, 30 to 40% corrections were common in the 2017 bull cycle. But thinking that this year, 2021, will be the same as 4 years ago, 2017, is a fallacy. You will be left behind if you're waiting for history to repeat. That's my opinion. But we can still learn from it, history, and while it doesn't necessarily repeat, it often rhymes. Let me show you. We have seen near zero 30 to 40% corrections in this bull market, excluding the black swan event of March 2020. In September of last year, we had a 21% correction over about 3 weeks. In December of last year, we had a 16% correction, followed by another 10 very quick. And then this year, beginning of January, around a 28% correction, and then just a few weeks ago, 25% correction for 1 week. And then, like I said, as of yesterday, a 14% correction, which is where we stand today. So the point is, we're not seeing those large 30% dips in Bitcoin like we were 4 years ago. And that's because, as you know, we're seeing a different class of investor buy and hodl Bitcoin. Institutional investors who are more predictable, who probably aren't as likely to panic sell at a local top. They're more likely to do the research before they buy, understand the power of the hodl. That's why the dips this cycle are getting shallower. So you know this. If you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you are pretty in tune with that sort of fundamental information. So how has my strategy changed? Well, a few days ago, I actually allocated a large sum of capital, relatively speaking, into Bitcoin, and also into Ethereum and a few specific altcoins. And that's different than dollar cost averaging, buying a little bit on each dip, which has always been the strategy. Because really, I just had to ask myself, Do I believe in Bitcoin and its long-term value and success?
There's no cup of coffee that can save this morning.
Or not? I believe Bitcoin at the end of this year, end of this cycle, will be closer to $150,000 per Bitcoin than where we are now. So if the worst should happen and we keep trending lower, maybe for another week, maybe we correct into the 40s, mid $45,000 range for a few days. That 15-18% value that I would miss out on is nothing in the grand scheme of where I see this market going. And think about it. We don't have that much time left. Who's selling BTC 1 week before Morgan Stanley finally offers it to their $5 trillion worth of capital that's been demanding access to Bitcoin for a while now? Who's selling Bitcoin right now when we can see with the most current data balance on exchanges, the supply of Bitcoin is still being depleted? As the price gets higher, the supply continues to get lower. And even when we look at different on-chain data, specifically the UTXO realized price distribution of Bitcoin, some say this is a more accurate way to determine the fair value of what Bitcoin should be. There is not much Bitcoin support realized between here and $51,000 BTC. Would not be surprised if we dipped a bit more. Actually, the strongest on-chain support currently sits at a $47,400 Bitcoin. And despite this, I'm holding true to something that I tweeted out a few days ago. I am done hodling, cashing out my fiat into Bitcoin. That's the announcement from me today. I'm not going to wait for possibly another 10-15% leg down. I'll take that risk. I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. I'd rather have my fiat into Bitcoin, into Ethereum, and a few specific altcoins. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have your own strategy, let me know down below in the comments section how you have updated your thoughts on Bitcoin in this maturing bull market. I'll keep you updated as things progress. First piece of Cardano news tweeted out just recently by Nick Carter of Backstreet Boys fame. Move over Bitcoin, it's Cardano's turn now. Wink. It's cleaner and better for the world when it comes to producing. Carbon footprint, Cardano, clean energy. Interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking any investment advice from 1/5 of the Backstreet Boys, but Cardano continues to get mainstream attention/adoption. And one more piece of perspective, the video game industry is way worse for the environment in terms of energy use compared to Bitcoin. Christmas lights, that industry is way worse for the environment compared to Bitcoin. So you have to ask yourself, is the value we get from something like this worth it? In terms of energy consumption, absolutely, in my opinion. But we can go further on Cardano. Next piece of news, and hopefully more to come from Ask the Doctor, verified Twitter account. We are pleased to announce that our Ask token will switch from Ethereum to Cardano. The ERC20 gas prices were too expensive and made it not feasible to execute our goal. Partnership with IOHK has begun. Africa, here we come. So I guess they're claiming they're the world's first healthcare cryptocurrency, and I don't know the exact details, but it's interesting.
Okay, so again, I'm not going to get into the whole, climate change, whatever, but it seems like they're trying to turn, like, how can you say this? Make Cardano synonymous with, being climate change friendly, I guess. So that's their angle. And I guess maybe that might mean something to some people, but I'm saying I'm not really concerned about that. I'm not saying I'm not concerned about the environment. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying just because it's, a green friendly thing, I'm more worried about its pragmatic use as far as a currency. I'm not really buying into this myself, that it's like, I don't know why they're always trying to, bring climate change into everything, but that's not really like, I have Cardano, but that's not like the reason why I'm into it. But anyways, I'm just going to keep my Cardano. And as you can see, I have just pull this up here. I have like 1,300 ADAs. right? I'm going to try to get this around 2000. And then, like I said, with Chainlink, I'm going to get it to 100, Cosmos up to 100. I'm going to get Algorand up to 500. So yeah, this will be up to 2000 eventually. Not right now, but what he's saying about Bitcoin, well, like he keeps saying, oh, it's not going to go down. As soon as you start here, like, I think this guy's good, and I'm not insulting him or anything. Excuse me. But one thing I've learned in life is when everybody says something's not going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to go down to nothing. It's useless, nothing like that. But what I'm saying is there will be corrections. I don't care how big, like the oil industry. I remember, like I said, when I used to be an advisor in like one of the biggest hubs in the world for oil, they all said the same thing. Peak oil will never go down again. And they would show you charts and graphs and give you, this whole PhD dissertation of why it will never, ever go down again. Well, it went from I think it was like $148 a barrel down to, I think it went down to $18 a barrel or $20 a barrel, something like that, like in a very short period of time. It can happen. And again, I'm not saying it's because of a conspiracy or it's because of this or because of that. It's just markets change, man. And it's the same thing with interest rates. I remember back in the early 80s, a mortgage, if you wanted to buy a house, people were paying mortgages 18, 20%, 22% mortgages. And I remember people saying, you will never see a mortgage below 10% again. It'll never, 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 never happen again. You'll never see that again. Interest rates went down to what, 0.5%? Who would have thought in 1982 you could get a mortgage in the future for a fraction of a percent? Nobody would have believed it. And the converse is true. If you told somebody today with interest rates around 1%, one day mortgages will be 20%, they'd laugh in your face. I don't believe that. It's true. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. I've seen it before. So whenever people say this can never happen, that's usually when it happens, because that's why it happens, because no one thinks it can happen. Most of the things in this world, like if you talk to people who live through something very traumatic, like if you were, well, most of the people are have passed away since then. But if you were to speak to people back when Hitler came to rise and say, how did it happen? They'd just say, I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like we didn't think he was, it was going to escalate to this. Like it wasn't, see, it's not like, I don't think something like that, like people were all for 100% what was going to happen. It just kind of takes a life of its own. But like I'm saying, like certain things will happen. And when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I never would have thought this would have happened. It's like right now, like with real estate, the prices of real estate. I always heard stories about, like New York and Tokyo and even like in Canada, Vancouver and downtown Toronto. Like I remember when I lived out in Vancouver, there were houses. They were shacks, man. They're wartime houses. And they were going for $2 million. It's because of the location. You know what I mean? Like it's because like everybody wanted to live in that particular location. Not that the house was great, but it was like, for all intents and purposes, it was a dump. Like it was like, if it was downtown Hamilton in the 90s, it'd be, I doubt it would even go for $100,000. And, but anyways, there were $2 million because, there's a lot of Chinese buyers with money who were willing to pay for it. It's just simple as that. But now where I'm living now, around the Toronto area, an average house is over $1 million. Like I never would have thought that you'd see housing prices like this ever. But that's what's happening. Like it just doesn't seem possible. You're like, where are people getting this money? Like, and so many of them. But anyways, then bidding wars start and all this. I never would have thought that would have happened, but it's happening. But anyways, that's what we're going through right now. But I'd like to just point out that, you know what I mean? Like these, when I hear, quote unquote experts or people who, fancy themselves as, being the intelligentsia, saying this will never happen. Soon as I hear that, to me, my ears kind of perk up and I'm like, okay, this is about to happen. Because when I hear the words never going to happen, I give you another example. And I imagine maybe most people are too young to remember this company, but there was a company called Nortel. It was Northern Telecom. It's a Canadian company that made technology for telephones and whatnot. They were actually a dividend of Bell Canada. But anyways, they became a darling in the 90s. Like this stock was, I think it was like 60, 70% of the TSX trades were Nortel. One of the hottest stocks in the world. And I went to a meeting and this mutual fund representative came in, like a pension representative came in. She's like, oh, your pension's being controlled by so-and-so. And back then there was no laws about the percentage of one particular security you could have into a fund. And she goes like, 60% of your fund is in Nortel. And I put up my hand. I go, say if it goes down. And she goes, it will never go down. And she was all like mean and all this. And I'm like, how do you know? She goes, our fund manager is a CFA charter holder. And she was all like pissed off, right? I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. It's irresponsible to put, such a large amount of money into one thing. And she was like, oh, as if you're a fund manager. And she was like giving me shit and yada, yada, yada. Sure enough, about a year and a half later, it went from, I think, $230 down to $5. You know what I mean? Like these idiots, as soon as I hear people say, this will never happen, guess what? It happens. So when I hear people, and I'm not hating on this guy, what's his name again? Altcoin Daily. I'm not hating on him. But you got to remember, he's a young guy. Like, and this is the other thing. You can be smart as you want. And I remember when I was a younger guy, people used to say, like, you hear old guys, yo, you young whippersnapper, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, why do these old guys think they're so smart, right? It's because they've seen cycles. They've seen the traveling snake oil salesman so many times. The guy's up to bullshit, right? It's like with this altcoin daily guy. I'm not saying this guy's lying, but he's a young guy. I don't know if you ever seen him. He's probably in his early to mid 20s. I don't know how, maybe 25, 26 years old. And he's got a twin. And you can tell he's probably highly intelligent and so on and so forth. And again, I'm not ripping on the guy, but there is something to be said about being around the block more than once. I have seen, you name it, man. I've seen it in the oil industry. I've seen it in the technology industry. I've seen it in the banking industry. I've seen it in all these industries where the same conversation is always said. This can never happen. And I've heard that so many times. And guess what? It happens. Like I saw when Bre-X was one of the biggest scams in the world. The guy had no gold and they wanted to make it a Dow Jones, part of the Dow 30. That company got so big, every fund manager was buying it. The guy had nothing. It was a scam. He had it in somewhere in Asia, or I think it was Malaysia or something like that. He said he had a gold mine. There was no gold mine. He was just complete fraud. Then they said he's dead, but he's not dead. And there's all this, bullshit going on around that guy. And when you hear these people, well, I'm an expert. I'm on Wall Street. I got a CFA. They were all CFAs on Wall Street that were buying that stock. And it was a complete fraud. And it's the same thing with Nortel. You could not be a fund manager on Wall Street unless you had Nortel in your portfolio. If you didn't have it, they'd fire you. You have to understand, like people, I don't care who you are, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a CFA charter holder, whoever you are, there's a thing called business. And I don't care what field you're in. And everything comes down to business. And you can be the Albert Einstein of investing. If you did your analysis and you go up to the president of the company, like say you're running a huge fund, and you're saying, you know what, I did my analysis on Nortel. I think this thing's a scam. He'll say, really? Well, everybody else has it and they're making money hand over fist. Why don't you have it? Well, I'm telling you, this thing's going to go down. I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go. They won't listen to you. You could be, I guarantee you there were guys that actually stood their ground and probably didn't want to buy Bre-X, didn't want to buy Nortel, didn't want to get into that whole housing, like the collateral, the collateral debt, all that bullshit that was going on in the mortgages. They didn't want to do any of that. Mortgage-backed securities, right? They probably said, look, man, I studied this. Like the guys that are legit, this is a scam, man. I'm not getting part of it. Guess what they got? They got their pink slip. They were told, you're out of here. So after that happens a few times, other guys who are legitimately smart probably saw, this guy's right. I know he's right that you shouldn't invest in that, but he just got fired. I got 2 kids in college. I got a mortgage. I got a Mercedes car payment. We want to go to the south of France this year, yada, yada. I'm not getting fired. If the company wants me to sell this, I'm going to sell it. That's how people think. And if you think that people with PhDs or MBAs or CFAs don't factor that in, you are dreaming. They have to pay the bills just like everybody else. You can have all the PhDs behind your name that you want. At the end of the day, you still got a mortgage. You still have, bills to pay. And if you're the renegade, they're throwing you out. And that's why, they have hedge fund managers. Those guys are the guys that just wouldn't adhere to corporate nonsense. Like they're the types of guys that will say, you know what? I don't believe what this company's doing. I'm out of here, and they'll start their own. That's what a hedge fund manager usually is. They're so smart. These guys, they won't succumb to anybody. I'm sure there's the odd one that plays the game and gets screwed too. But I'm just saying that for the most part, they're renegades, but they're highly intelligent. Those guys, and they just say, yeah, I don't believe in any of this, and then they go about their own way. But anyways, when this, the take home for today is, again, I'm not saying this guy's being deceptive. I think he's trying his best and he's being honest, but just because you're trying your best and you're being honest doesn't mean you're always right. Otherwise you'd never fail an exam. How many times have you written an exam? You're like, oh, I thought I put down the right thing. Well, you did. You obviously weren't trying to fail or get a bad mark or something. You thought you're answering the question properly, right? Intention and, attempt, like your efforts and your intentions don't always equate to what's right. You can be as hardworking and as honest as you want. I think that helps, but it doesn't make you infallible. You will make mistakes, right? And again, I'm not saying this guy's being deceptive, but what I'm saying to you is when I start hearing anybody saying this will never happen again, it happens. You watch, mark my words. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to go out of business or what, it's done or whatever. Not that it's in business, but it's, whatever. It's not going to be down to zero. But I think there will be a massive correction at some point. It just is. It's just the way it does. He's like, oh, it'll never do a 30% drop again or whatever. It will. It will. And again, that's why daily dollar cost average, because I can't say when. I have no idea when it's going to do it, right? Because there's so many variables that you have to take into consideration. Like there's so many people that are, have a hand in this that I can't possibly anticipate what every single person's going to do. And they have all kinds of reasons for what they're doing. But I will tell you right now, it will go down significantly, probably 30, 40, 50% drop. It's done it before. And I think it'll do it again. And again, but I welcome it. I hope it does. And that's when I'm going to load up. But like I'm telling you, remember me saying this on, March 24th, 2021, that when somebody tells me this will never happen, that's when it happens. Just remember I told you that. Because it will. It always does. It's like I told you about Lucy and Charlie Brown. Are you going to pull the ball away from me? No, this time I swear I won't do it. Oh, okay. All right. Guy runs, she pulls the ball away, falls down every single time. And that's why people say, well, how did the market crash happen? Because humans never learn. We never learn. And again, that's not to say, oh, don't go into it. Go into it, but do it really smart. You got to be smart about it. And like I said, the best way to do it, like he's saying, no, don't hodl anymore. Don't dollar cost average. Go all in. Really? That's like a boxer saying, oh, forget about, going all 12 rounds. Just take one punch, try and knock the guy out. You use that strategy. Get in the boxing, use that strategy. Every fight I get into, I'm going to bank it all on one punch. Just work on that one punch. Get as hard as you can, but that's all you have. Try knock the guy out with one punch. See what happens to you. As soon as that guy ducks, that's it for you, my friend. But anyways, that's it for today. But again, we'll see who's right. I think I'm right, but we'll see. Anyways, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.